I'm Carly Steele here at South by Southwest in partnership with Kinolime, talking to some of the festival's top storytellers all about their filmmaking process and how they broke into the industry. Let's make movies together. I'm here with Pankiw. She is writer and director of I Used to Be Funny, a title I really identify with and said after the pandemic. Congratulations.
Thank
you had
so
your
much.
first screening. It was a huge success. Tell us a little bit about your film.
So my film is like a really dark dramedy, I guess I would say. And it follows Sam, who's played by Rachel Sennett, the lovely Rachel Sennett. And she's a comedian, a stand-up comedian, and au pair, because you can't just be a struggling comedian. You need another job most of the time. She is struggling with recovery, and she has PTSD. And then she decides to go on sort of a healing journey to find one of the young girls that she used to nanny who's gone missing and bring her home. So it's ultimately about their relationship and how it was fractured and how they come back together. Yeah, and it's just about like the realistic ups and downs of recovery from PTSD. Yeah.
Where did you get this idea from? What was the genesis of it?
The themes are like very personal to me, and the plot is just a way to explore those themes. The plot is not actually personal to me. But yeah, I just wanted to, I was frustrated because I think a lot of the time in pop culture, when we discuss stories about like violence against women or women's trauma, it often is sort of presented that like retaliation or revenge or justice are things that might bring healing. And I just don't know if that's the most true, honest, path to healing. Or films about this similar themes or they'll like be very, very like devastating and heavy and the reality I think is somewhere more in the middle in this gray area of like, as women, it's really shitty to be a young woman in the world, but it also has a lot of like joy in connecting as young women. So I wanted to explore this sort of middle ground, I guess, of recovery that I just didn't see represented in a lot of stories that are out there. So
it's really hard for independent filmmakers to get things made. How did you
Yes.
get this? What was the biggest challenges in getting this made?
I mean, getting money for it, I guess. I started writing the script in 2013, 2014. And because I'm Canadian, I was able to, after, years of rewrites, and I also worked in TV for a bit before I did my first film, but I linked up with a Canadian producer named James Wayman, who works at a place called the Ontario Media Development Corporation, or he did at the time. So he knew the Canadian financing system really intimately and well, and it's a very complicated system. It's great as Canadians. We have like access to, grants and film funds.
Yeah.
But to navigate and make them all work together, and the tax credits that you have to cobble together to make a real budget.
It's complicated.
And he knew how to do that. And so we met in like 2017 and started working together then. And then it was like a few years of like building that financing plan. And then we were supposed to start casting right before COVID, and then COVID happened, and then I was like, COVID's only about me and my film, and it is very personal. But it obviously shut down everything, and but it was a blessing because when we went back up, then I knew more about Rachel's work, and so she was on my radar more at that time, and she just became our perfect Sam. So then we were able to get her.
Do you remember? What can you tell us about your story of the first screenplay you either sold, got made, or were hired to write, or script?
Well, the first time I was like hired to write in a writer's room was on Schitt's Creek. So that's another fellow Canadian, Dan Levy. So I wrote in that writer's room for 2 seasons. So I guess that's technically the first one, but this is the first film that I've written that has been produced. So it's my indie debut, I guess. Yeah.
This is why it really is the financing and getting voices heard, because here you are, you're so talented.
Thank
you. You're just like, it's connecting the storytellers with the financing.
Oh my
That's
God.
why, by the way, I partnered with Kinolime, because as a screenwriter and someone who really cares about the movie making process, I feel like diverse voices are not being heard, especially women.
I think people talk about doing that a lot, but I think that, like, unfortunately, the actual numbers and statistics haven't really changed that much over the last decade since we've been having this conversation. So anything that can make it more equitable and democratize more diverse voices getting funding, I'm all for it.
I'm 100% there for that too.
Yeah. I'm here for it.
What do you hope the audiences will take from your film?
I think that you don't have to be a perfect person or a perfect version of yourself to mean something to someone else, and to fight for your relationships and friendships, and that I think when we heal as women from our trauma, we are passing down that healing hopefully to other generations of young women. And that that simultaneously sort of horror show and joy of what it means to be a young woman in the world.
Changing gears a little bit,
Great.
ChatGPT and AI has been a big topic at the festival.
Sure, I just heard about it
Did you?
a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, okay.
I mean, essentially, I could say I want to I could put in a prompt saying, write a screenplay about a heist in the voice of Ali Pankiw, and it will churn it out.
Let's
how
finance
does that make
it
you
right
feel?
now. I don't know. I just don't think I know enough about what it generates to know if I think it's scary or good. But I think if people are fearful that it'll replace real writing,
there's a fear.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think there's a pulse and a heart that comes through when a story
experience.
is you even notice the difference between something that is not someone's personal story to tell and versus a personal story for a filmmaker or a screenwriter.
There's feelings.
And I think you can pick up on that. So I'm sure that it will also be something that is palpable when it's completely removed from someone's personal experience, or maybe it'll be so amazing that I'll use it to write my next
The writer's
movie.
block. In the voice of Ali Pankiw.
I'm please, God.
Please do it like this. How did you like working on Schitt's Creek?
One of my favorite things about Schitt's Creek was being able to start a beautiful sort of creative partnership and relationship with Dan, who I've continued to write things with. And we actually just recently sold a show we co-created to Hulu called Standing By. It's an adult animated show, and we got picked up for a first season.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And we're in the writer's room for that right now in LA. So that's been really fun because I've never done animation before, and you get to go to some really weird and wonderful places. So that's been a delight too.
What are your goals? What do you like doing the best? Is it going to be a showrunner? Is it directing independent movies? Is it all of the? Is it EP, having a production company with an overall deal and overseeing things? What is your dream?
I think I kind of want to do it all. I've always sort of dabbled in different formats and spaces, and I think the beautiful thing about the industry right now is that the lines, the strict lines between a series, a limited series, a film, where you can access those types of content, all of those lines are blurring, I think, in a really lovely way at this point in time. So I just want to tell cool stories, and whether that is a show or a film, and whether the film is in a theater or on a streamer, I don't know. It's the story that's more
Yeah.
important to me than where it ends up. So
for sure.
yeah. So I just want to do it all, I guess.
And you shall.
Thank you so much.
Allie, thanks for hanging out with us. It's been
Thank
such
you
a
so
pleasure.
much.
It's
I'm
been
so
awesome.
excited about this platform, and I think it's just going to be such a great tool for people to use. So
Same.
thank you.
I'm super excited about it too.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.